I'm Don Jehiel, and I am the Stylist skater, a fashion and skate creative in Atlanta. Though I am known as a fashion stylist, I am so much more. I'm also a semi-professional roller skater. Uh, Semi is crazy. I have a jewelry business currently. I'm always wearing my jewelry. Um, I'm a lover of pearls, philanthropy. I'm a huge otaku, huge nerd, gamer. Just don't leave me alone for too long because I would sit there and play the Switch all day. And yeah, I'm also a thrifter, reseller. I go over people's image. I do modeling. I do coaching. I do a lot. I am definitely a Renaissance man.
Are you from Atlanta?
I am. I'm actually an Atlanta native. I know we're hard to find, but where was I born at? I was born at Georgia Baptist, which became like Atlanta Medical, and now it's not here.
For people that are not from Atlanta, describe Atlanta in like 2 sentences, whatever Atlanta means to you.
Atlanta is not a real place. Atlanta is as real as it gets.
From a child to adult, what are some things that interested you as a child? Then go into, I guess you could just go straight into how has that changed or what changed when you became an adult?
As a child, I was kind of all over the place, like mentally and emotionally. I was always into music, like alternative paths with music. Like I was always into classical, rock, and then music from anime, video games and stuff. And that's actually kind of been consistent through and through. I think as an adult, it really just kind of adds to like the multitude of influences that I have.
Well, you said you were interested in a lot of different music, right? As a child, Can you talk about like how that then transferred into like other arts, such as fashion, and how that might have even influenced some of your likes and dislikes growing up?
I think because I was always into like what other people weren't into, it kind of allowed me to really lock in and kind of get to know myself more. I think being into like things like K-pop or being into rock, being into classical and just different avenues, kind of the cultures and the aesthetics that like go hand in hand with them are kind of like what I picked up like bits and pieces of. And it kind of really inspired just how I dress. And not only how I dress, but how I approach like styling other people.
What's your favorite thing when styling other people?
My favorite thing with like styling other people and like playing dress up is the fact that I can see like a transformation and see people shift from being one thing to another. And just watching the process is honestly always the most mind blowing thing for me.
Do you have a style that you prefer over the other as far as like an urban? So like explain this outfit and explain how this might, show off your style with like just in general across the board.
So like right now I'm wearing, I think this is a hockey jersey. I'm not into sports for real. I just like the clothes. Then I've got like these camo pants on that are like straight leg, and I've got these Naked Wolf platform sneakers on, and obviously this beanie. But like what I'm wearing today is pretty like streetwear. It's pretty forward. It's kind of, like chill vibes, chill with like bright colors. Cause even throughout the outfit, you see like pops of orange, like big pops of orange. For the most part, I think my favorite like aesthetic to play with for people is like, honestly, that's kind of hard because I feel like I blend aesthetics. Like,
Okay, so you like the formal, but you like the urban.
yeah,
You like the
so like I like more prep and like academia type looks, but I also like urban and I like punk. I like a lot of things. It really just kind of depends on, I say like the color palette. It depends on where we're going or like what story I'm envisioning in my head.
Okay, so we were just talking about earlier with music. I like to blend different music, like make a playlist where it might have rock, then pop, then some 80s and 70s, and some back to disco, then house. Correct me if I'm wrong, but just looking at your current outfit, you have the chain, let's say that's a hockey jersey, but then you have camo, but then you have, I don't know if I'll call them more skater or punk shoes type
Yeah.
thing. And then the hat, that's kind of like eclectic. I don't know really what to describe it as. And then you have the bandana on the neck, which people, well, I think of Juvenile and all the people in New Orleans, the people in the gangs and or
Yeah.
whatever from the different wards. When I see that, so and then you have pearls on, so then it's like a mix of sport. Camo could be sport because of hunting. You got the rocker. You got this. So a lot of different things. That's what you you
There's a lot
you,
going
you
on.
kind of like to combine. So would you say that's the same with most of your
Like
like
clients.
yeah, like a client if you're working with them? Is it always a mixed match?
Uh,
Like, is that what you look for? Like, I'm gonna do formal, but I'm also gonna put some casual or some street
it,
in there too.
so like it honestly really depends on like the creative direction of stuff. I'm one of those people that dresses for where I'm going. Honestly, wherever I go, I show up as who I am and just show up as like one of the facets that I'm expressing that day. But when I style other people, it's usually just depending on like, okay, I'm imagining this is a woman who like, or this is a person who's like, she's in the city. They're like really fashion forward. They take risks. So yeah, I like throw in some like tactical stuff in there on top of formal wear. So it is kind of always like mix and match. But I think how I blend things together is usually what makes it so distinct. Like I feel like if you see something that I put together, you'll know that I put it together if you know who I am.
What about colors? Do you have a favorite color?
I do actually. I don't get to wear it as much as I want to, but my favorite color is pink. I love all shades of pink. Um, Honestly, my mom is an AKA, and her one of her colors that she wears a lot is green. So a lot of times we end up looking like AKAs when we're together because I'll be wearing pink, she'll be wearing green, and then I'm into pearls. And so yeah, but pink is kind of it. Like it's the color for healing, it's the color for community, it's the color for love, for romance, for like femininity, which is kind of a thing for me because I feel like a huge part of my style and how I approach things is kind of looking at the mixture of like masculinity and femininity and seeing like where we can pull the two together and how we can blend them together seamlessly.
And so you're talking about that on the fashion art level. Do you have anything you'd want to touch on as far as masculine, feminine on the spiritual? Because I know it's a big thing. People talk about
Yeah.
feminine energy, masculine energy, yin and yang, you know, all those different types of things.
Honestly, I think of everything as energies. And I do think of them on a spiritual level to where it's like, if we learn how to channel those energies and we learn how to actually like apply them where they should or where they'd be best suited, then you'd be amazed at like the results you can get, you know? Like if we combine more feminine colors, for example, like applying pink to a guy's outfit who already has like this rugged kind of look might soften him up. And not even in the sense of like, oh, he's a big softy now, but like, no, this is a man who's like actually, I say, in pocket and like more in tune with himself. It adds more of like an intimacy and like more of a, you know, it just kind of rounds him out. It makes him more than just one thing.
Okay. So more of a balance.
Yeah. Because I do feel like everybody is everything at once, but we just choose what to like really expound upon and like blow up in moments. Like you might look at me and see like street today, but if you break down the details, you'll see like little things like the pearls, like that's more feminine, that's kind of soft. Or if you look at like my shoes being platform, that's more like punk and that's more, you know, in a different direction. But the overall thing that we're pushing today is streetwear.
If you had to choose a country to take styles from and make an outfit for somebody, what would be the first country that comes to mind? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
The first country, if I chose a country to like pull outfits from or pull things together to make an outfit, will probably be Japan. Like off rip, the denim that they have goes crazy. Like I can't even afford the denim. Like, and I just know about it because it's amazing. Like the different textures, the different layers. I love their approach to fashion in general. It's not so focused on the actual gender, but I feel like to a degree they kind of focus again on energies. They kind of focus on the overall aesthetic and the look that we're going for, and like, you know, what are we selling today? What are we giving? And I think that's a much better approach than like the classic, well, I'm a man, so I'm going to wear da 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 da. And it's like, but men can be so much more.
If you could take over ownership of any company as a CEO and run, their fashion campaigns, what's going to come out on the floor, all those type of things. And you can do that you'd start work tomorrow. What company would you take over? Or let's say they'll have you CEO for 6 months. You're going to have you in there for 6 months, and your job is to come in and just kind of revitalize their style and everything like that. Yeah, but you have one company you could choose.
Damn.
For a 6-month contract, getting $80 million.
The stakes is high. Honestly, it's a lot of companies I feel like could use some touching up. If I could take over one CEO for 6 months, I think.
And I'll just add this: one that you would take over, you hop in for 6 months. Now, if you really improve it or you don't, whatever the case, they just want your eye and your expertise over it. So you can just kind of go in and have fun with it. Just going from that angle, and also something that you feel like you'll be like the most impactful into that company.
I think I would honestly go with, oh my gosh, an easy one is D Squared. I think the direction that they've gone in has kind of been D Squared and Diesel. I got to give two. Like the direction that they're going in, they've been going in for like the past few years is kind of leaning towards what I'm into and like how I approach stuff. But I do want to see them kind of push just a little bit more. Like I feel like they're so close and they're missing like just like that little pinch of like something different, something new. And it's like what they're doing is already good. But I feel like if I got in there, 6 months is all I need.
D Square, I don't know that one. Is that pretty popular? I've heard of Diesel, but D Square, is that like a popular company a lot of people know?
So D Squared and Diesel kind of have like a similar customer base. It's kind of like H&M and Zara, how it's like they kind of neck and neck. Zara, you would just go for like more specifics. But D Squared is kind of like they do a lot of industrial, how rock styles kind of have revitalized in the past like half a decade. They do a lot of stuff like that. Both of them do.
Is there any company that you've seen or that you remember growing up that you saw or that you would even go to the store for? And number one, that you really felt like it was a horrible clothing store, number one. And number two, any company you know of, like a fashion company or something like that, that had horrible image, like whether that be the advertising or just the way that they put out certain media and magazines and stuff like that.
There's a lot of places I don't be impressed by. I think now would probably be, I haven't been in there in so long, and it's because I'm always disappointed, but Forever 21 just needs to get it together. Like, I feel like for the women, they kind of do the most, which I get it. Marketing, money, business, like capitalism. But for the guys, it's kind of lackluster, especially when there's so many men that buy from Forever 21. And it's so accessible, it's so affordable. I can't knock anybody. I can't say like, oh, you shouldn't have shop there, like knowing daggone well, like there's other stuff to put your money towards. So, but nah, they kind of need to figure out how they're going to do better for the guys.
Horrible image and store? Is that the one answer for both?
Nah, wait.
Or
so Forever 21 just has a horrible store, like experience. I think image wise, a lot of places actually kind of got their image together. And a lot of the places that I don't care for, like image wise, I think are just brands I personally know that it's not for me. Like Tommy Bahamas. When I go in there, it looks like a bunch of those like Hawaiian print shirts that people's dads wear on vacations. That's kind of their whole motto.
I think I've seen it, but I've never been in there. Is it expensive? Expensive Hawaiian shirts?
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're not like cheap Hawaiian shirts, just to be as corny as the cheap ones.
One thing that I've seen here in Atlanta versus a smaller city is they'll have these designer stores. I went to Lenox Mall. I'm thinking the mall's going to be like our mall, Dillard's, Macy's, or whatever. But they have like Louis Vuitton. Well, I don't know if this Lenox had Louis Vuitton, but they have Balenciaga. Like, they got like big name stores. If somebody gave you $3 million and said go shopping crazy, pick out some outfits, what high costing store or designer would you go to?
Of all the like luxury stores in Atlanta, and like brands that's represented, I probably go to Saks, and I would go to Dries Van Noten or like Off-White. I probably go to those, or D Squared and Diesel. Like those are pretty hard hitters too. But I guess they're not fully luxury. But yeah, so Off-White and Dries Van Noten would be it.
And then those stores, or not those stores, but luxury stores, are there any that you feel like are overhyped?
Honestly, all luxury stores are kind of overhyped. Like they kind of sell this image, or people buy into the belief that you can just buy style. And that's not the case. You can only buy like pieces. You can buy clothes, but you can't buy style. You can't buy creativity, unless there's a course on that.
So you went to public school here?
Yeah, school is kind of weird because it's so different now. Like, for one, I feel old because I don't really know what's happening anymore. When I was coming up, it was rough. Like, we didn't have the resources. We didn't have people like pouring into us, like with programs and all this and that. But I also was more so adjacent to Atlanta, like school system. I actually went to school in a different like system. But I feel like either way, growing up in Atlanta, you kind of, through my high school years, I really developed as far as like what I'm into, what my interests really are, like kind of sort of what I want to do with my life, or what I know I love and what I know that I like. Oh, yeah. Honestly, my path was kind of derailed when I was younger because I was trying to like find ways to get into fashion. Growing up, there weren't that many like programs for creative outlets or anything like that. Like there was just STEM started becoming a thing. So it was either STEM, business, or like, I think there's another category and I can't remember it, but it was like fashion wasn't included in that. And then the school I went to, if you were going to do fashion or if you were into fashion, you would have to be a part of like, or it would best suit you to be like in the visual arts program. But I didn't want to paint and draw and like sketch. I didn't want to design. And I had already kind of exited off because I can't sketch. But yeah, I think I was really just trying to find some type of way to get in. I ended up going with my friend to like the internship that he had, and she turned me away because I was just really timid. I was kind of shy. I didn't know how to like break out of my shell and just talk. And I didn't know how to like display my talent. And then back then I was so weak-willed about it that it was kind of like her just saying no kind of just shut me down. And then I ended up just looking for other things. And I think all of that really just kind of made me realize like years later that this is something I really am meant for and something that I really am like into. So it kind of, I don't know, it just kind of re-solidified myself or like helped me build my confidence in myself.
And that was an internship for what? What was the internship?
Oh, it wasn't. So it was an internship it was a women's boutique. It was like one of those little smaller, now that I know, looking back, it was just, she had a wholesale like license and would just buy pieces and sell them in her store. I mean, everybody does it, but back then it was more obvious, like, yeah.
Is she still in business? Do you know?
She's not.
There you go. Look at God.
Yeah.
Look at God.
She shouldn't have told me no.
Right.
She needed me.
Thinking about like that opportunity and how you missed it because of that. How was she as a person? What would you say? Was she a cool person?
She was okay. She was kind of like the traditional fashion person. Like everything had to kind of be loud. Everything kind of had to be like, there was only one facet of fashion to her. And it was kind of like wearing a suit and tie. But I think the directions that I wanted to go in when I was younger were more like, because I've always been really imaginative. I've always been into anime, video games, and like really abstract art. And so I think a lot of the directions and such that I wanted to go in that my mind would naturally take me were things that she was like adamantly against. So it was kind of like a rejection of me. I think with the fashion community and like the creative community at large, the biggest like concern and like beef that I might have is really in the fact that you become cultured through like actually participating in and like watching and taking note of people of every avenue, not just what you do. Like, I think a lot of people stick to their groups of friends and like their yes men instead of going places where they're going to be challenged, where they have to actually like fight for who they are, and not just fight for who they are, but like, they have to actually, people avoid development and avoid growth. And I feel like that's kind of why we end up with a trend that sticks around for so much longer than it has to, because people don't challenge anything.
Drake. Drake. No. So then, talking about the timidness and shyness and whatnot, have you ever analyzed or thought about why that might be the case?
I spend about 63% of my life analyzing myself and like my behaviors and reflecting on things. And I think that me being timid and shy, the reason why, not just that opportunity, like with the boutique when I was a teenager, but like other things that have come after that, I've missed certain opportunities because I wasn't strong enough to like stand on my own and like really present myself and own spaces and like walk into spaces as myself. Like how I say, like now, the day gives what the day gives, but overall, whenever I enter a room, I'm my authentic self. Like I'm a very chill, very lax. I have my hype moments or whatever. I laugh at everything. Like I'm a very peaceful, like good energy. And I think back then it was more of like when you doubt yourself or you don't take yourself seriously, other people don't take you seriously either. So a lot of my like missed opportunities and things that, oh, I should have been on that, or oh, I should have did that, oh, we should have worked together. I think a lot of it was I didn't stand on my business. A lot of people like grow up having common interests. Like everyone loves chocolate chip cookies. Everybody loves blueberry flavored things. Everybody loves like the same thing that their neighbor likes. I've always been ostracized and kind of like off on the side. I was never into like the top 100 songs. I was always listening to some niche band from some small country in some small town that nobody knew about. I was always into more like, not in a spooky sense, but in a general sense of like more occult and more like just rare things. Um, and I think to a greater degree, I've always known that, not even to sound like you guys are basic, but like I've always been into the alternative of things. And I think to a greater degree, I wouldn't say I was intentionally always shunned from communities or from like my surroundings, but I was always able to tell like, yeah, these aren't my people. And I think to a greater degree, because of that, a lot of things that I liked and a lot of things I was passionate about, and a lot of like, even now, how I move and navigate things is just different. And people never really handle different the best. Back then, what made me so like shy is, and just really to myself, is the fact that not only was I introverted, I come from a small family. I was a single child for half my life. And it's kind of like, because I was always into stuff that was different and I was always into the alternative version of things or the alternative, like to whatever people were into, a lot of people I just knew weren't my people. They weren't my tribe. A lot of people kind of just stood over there while I was right here. And I was always comfortable in being fine. And I was fine being by myself. It was more so just about the fact that I know that you're not my people. So how do I really like communicate with you? How do I really like share with you, connect with you? And then when you have like sexual orientation, and then when you have like skin color, and then when you have like the demographics of like, oh, this poor boy, like literally poor. So it's like stuff like that kind of made me uncomfortable to really like even just walk up and be like, hey, can you show me how to da 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 da? Because I don't know if we cool like that, you know?
One thing I noticed was some people might not be the tribe, right? And other people you get along with because that's your tribe.
Yeah.
But if there's a shyness or whatever, with entering the other one, then it's kind of like it implies that their tribe is better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. During my journey and like during my development, I've learned so far like you really have to just kind of own who you are. I think in a lot of spaces that I've been in, like be it fashion, like general creative stuff, even back when I played viola and like now with skating, it's like you have to realize that you are you and your lane is only yours. Like now I'm kind of just doing my thing and being more confident and leading with confidence and not even just confidence in like, oh, I know I'm doing good. I know I'm this, that, but just being confident in the fact that this is what I'm presenting. This is what I'm giving. And you take it or leave it, but this is still going to be what I give. And I think moving forward, I just want to continue to practice that. Like showing up in spaces as myself, knowing that who I am is who I am. And regardless of if someone's not my tribe or not, as long as that respect is there, we can always communicate and like come to a middle ground.
And so you talked about skating. Can you talk about the skating community and then also what brought you into the skating realm?
So the skating community is kind of, I will say to a greater degree, the skating community is kind of founded on love. I think a lot of things kind of, we got some straight ends and like some loose ends to like tie up, but overall, it's like, it's all love. I kind of got into it throughout my life because my mom skates, well, used to. Uh, my uncle skated before he passed. And going to the rink was always something I wanted to do, but I never had friends that were like right there with me. And then when I did, it got me in there enough to like consistently go, but I still I wasn't doing nothing. Then I just started showing up more, like getting more comfortable with just being who I am at all times and da 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 da. And now I'm at a point where it's like, same thing applies. Like, take it or leave it. You know, this is what I'm here to bring. This is what I'm giving you. My end goal is to reach a point where I'm not just making content and just putting it out there, but my courses, like my e-courses are like selling. My jewelry is selling. I have a jewelry brand. Um, Styling is kind of like a once a month thing. And that once a month actually kind of takes care of as much as I need it to. And I just really want to see myself go further along with skating. Like I'm coming up on a TV show, like a big one. And I don't know. I feel like I'm starting to kind of make motion and make the moves and stuff that I kind of always wanted to. So I'm trying to just really like bask in that and just take it as far as I can. Then I have a multitude of like other business ideas that I want to do. Like I want to do a rotating like fashion exhibit. Like I'm not sure where to put it, but like, you know, I want to do that. I want to have like events that are like curated to different like fashion themes and like concepts, do panels and get more out there as like a voice for, I say the alternative, like for the people who not just literally alternative as in like they're gothic punk or things like that, but just they're not the mainstream. And I also want people to like see me and see like a black guy who actually does something with the way they dress versus copy and paste.
Let's talk about blackness, fashion, skating, just whatever might come to mind for you.
I think blackness in fashion is kind of it's kind of crazy. I think all fashion is black, to be honest. But I really feel like fashion is one of the most slept on and kind of underrated ways of like really expressing yourself, really telling a story. And it's like, it sounds kind of corny when people say like, you know, dress to express, dress to impress and things like that. But it's like clothing has always been how we determine like social class, how we determine like your other interests, how we can infer and like kind of figure what type of person you be, what type of music you like, you know, who you are. Like it's a huge part of identity. And I think with blackness, it's kind of about expression. And that's like the biggest thing. I think in the skate community, how black people used to be like more communal based and like not necessarily 60s, yeah, 60s, like 70s, 80s, like all the way up until like the whole crack epidemic. It was like black people were together, like more of a unified front. We had like the Black Panthers actually doing stuff and like real active. The NAACP really taking like the political route. Like we had a lot of motion. And I think skating kind of shows that. Like when you really get in there and you get past, like when you're confident and you're comfortable with yourself and you really just get in there and just start talking to people, just start like skating with other people, just joining in, like you realize how much love is in the community. Like you end up with, you come in like alone and leave with like 5 friends almost every session, depending on where you go. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And speaking of which, the Black Panthers, even the 60s, 70s, I really liked that whole era of fashion. But yeah, they had like the black, they had like, because there's just so many ways to wear black. So you
Yeah.
think about if that's the theme, you kind of just got a black theme all the
Mixing it
time.
up. Yeah.
Black leather,
That is crazy.
black turtleneck, black slacks, different black
Yeah.
boots, then
Different black.
the whole wardrobe or a whole closet full of black. And then to your point, but at that time, that represented that you were about some type of a business, that you weren't supposed to be played with. So versus somebody that might wear something more colorful at that time, or it'd be your off day,
Yeah.
if you're not wearing all black and you're a Black Panther. And when you're talking about end goals, if you had $1 trillion, right? So essentially, you just didn't have to work. What would you do? Because you're essentially retired. You don't have to work. You don't got to do anything. So what would you do? What would a typical day look like for you? Or if your typical day would be just doing nothing, then let's say like a week to a month.
Honestly, if I was to retire, like, and everything be good, like financially, I would just spend more time with like hanging out with my mom. That's my number one. That's my bestie for the restie. And like other than that, I just be chill. Like I probably travel like a lot more every month. I'd probably be in a different country, and then every other weekend be in a different state. I would commit fully to, I say, setting up like more things for the community. My mom is really big into not only like advocating for like political development and things like that. Like right now, she's fighting about getting hospitals reopened. Like, and she's throughout my life and throughout my childhood, she's always been like volunteering and giving to others. And I honestly would go down that path of like just doing more with like donating clothes, more with like helping out soup kitchens, more with like passing out food, doing food distributions and stuff like that. Yeah. And then just spending time with my people.
What's some advice for a young Black boy or man just coming up in the world? If you just could say something in two sentences that you could leave with them, what would that be? Or 2 sentences or less, I should say.
Your identity is up to you, and there's so many things that you can be. So have at it.
If you could go back in the past and see a young you, and you can give yourself a piece of advice, would you want to? And if so, what would you tell the younger you?
I probably tell my younger self, like, it's not arrogant to know your uniqueness.
And then you disappear and come back.
Yeah.
Do you
Probably
think,
be sitting there like, what? Who is that?
now, the younger you recognizes that it's you or a future version of themselves. Do you think the younger you would take that advice or, implement what was said?
I think the younger me didn't have guidance, especially when it comes to like creative prowess, when it comes to even with like skating. I didn't really have like a tribe. I didn't really, even like in recent years with my skate journey, like kind of officially really starting some years ago, like I didn't really have that much. So somebody reaching out and like telling me something and like going ahead and just kind of encouraging me and pushing me, that probably would have been received like very well. and appreciate it.
Behind the camera and in front of the camera balancing, skating. Can you talk a little bit about that between skating and fashion?
I think my biggest struggle is more so choosing between like bookings for the two and choosing like which route to more so develop and go down. A lot of things with fashion more so come from like my personal development. So honestly, that isn't too that's not too much. But then there's so much more that I want to learn and so much that more that I want to study. But skating is also a heavier commitment. Like I have a lot of projects coming up. I have like a show coming up. I have different like performances coming up and things like that. And then there's like having to pursue those two while also like still maintaining my day job, still working on like my business, still spending time with like my family, still like just taking care of myself. Like it's a lot. But I will say like the difference between styling and skating is knowing both sides of the camera. So it's like it just kind of adds to the patience that I already have because I feel like a lot of people can't say that they do one thing knowing how it's going to affect the other. A lot of people just do their part.
Have you had experiences like that where you like, let's say you're in front of the camera, but the person behind the camera or on set is like, you're like,
Unfortunately, I'm one of those like multi-passion people and multifaceted people, and I have a very good memory. So it's kind of like because I can't shut off that part of my brain that's like, oh, the angles, oh, the lighting, oh, the like image, or oh, your logo is showing, da 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 da. It honestly gets a little tricky being in front of the camera for me because it's like I know how this should be, on one side. But then being behind the camera is kind of like it has its own challenges too, because it's like not to fret because you know that there's a post production and you know that there's editing and you know that there's so many things that like you can fix. But then when you're in front of the camera, it's like the opposite is happening. It's like, well, what about? Well, what about? Well, what about? And it's kind of always annoying, like a constant little feud in my head. Like, just calm down.
both your parents are Nigerian or no?
So my dad is Nigerian. My mom is Native American and Black.
Do you know like if your dad is Igbo or is he Yoruba or
I'm not sure.
okay?
Yeah, I'm very removed from. We don't have a good relationship.
Okay.
So it's like, or we don't have a relationship. So it's kind of like, no, I don't know anything.
Dashikis, the fashion, any of that type of stuff. Have you been to any events that are African based?
I haven't been to the few like African events that I was supposed to go to were like the year of the pandemic. And that honestly kind of threw those off. And I never really fell back into like communication and connection with those people. And I actually think they've all like since have moved. So it's kind of like, dang, I got to start over. But yeah, I feel like fashion is kind of a huge world and a lot of things are kind of worldly these days. And I think fashion definitely demonstrates that. So it's like whether it be Nigerian or like Chinese or it be like Romanian, like you kind of need to take in all of it to get it. So I do want to see like African things.
Yeah, I was gonna say because there's a big thing about even Louis Vuitton, like the design of a lot of that stuff.
Of a lot,
The
yeah.
little square squiggle thing that was African, and then there's like some other designers, or it might have been still Louis Vuitton. It was taken from a lot of African prints, and so prints. So yeah, if you ever do see some of those dashikis and stuff, you might be like, oh,
That's
put
crazy.
that with some jeans, or
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
We kind of ruined dashikis. America has destroyed the
Oh no, I mean like
when I think about it. But I know what you
there's
mean.
just some yeah.
Like,
There's the inauthentic. I'm gonna go see Black Panther 2, so let me get a dashiki to go up there type thing.
Like
But-
what?
But
You're not
there's
even black, though.
right. But then there's it's just some crazy outfits that are like,
Yeah.
wow, that looks super dope. and it's not what we're used to, like a jersey.
Right.
It's the shirt's tailored and then it's cut in a different way. So it's more almost like Middle Eastern looking. But so you gave the people about a sentence or two of advice and your younger self. So I wanted to just close it out.
Again, I'm Don Jehiel, and thanks for rocking with me. I hope you picked up on what I put down. I hope that these nuggets were nuggets of wisdom. And hopefully I see you soon. Oh, wait, no. Why would I see you? I'm going to do it again. I'm Don Jehiel, the stylish skater, and thanks for rocking with me. I hope that these nuggets I put down were nuggets of wisdom versus chicken nuggets. And I hope you gained something.